The Big 12 championship will never look the same. Will Texas go out the right way, or will Oklahoma State assert its dominance in a new era? This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from ESPN Central Texas. Thank you for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. Let's break it all down. We are on the cusp, the day prior, the eve of the Big 12 championship, and the last one that looks like this as a new era of the Big 12 is right in front of us. It's Texas. It's Oklahoma State. Can Steve Sarkisian prove that Texas truly is back as they head into the SEC? Can Mike Gundy show that the Big 12 will be Oklahoma State's in the new era? And in a game that's projected to be a blowout, will it even be close? Do you feel it a little bit? If you're an Oklahoma State fan, I mean, you felt this in 2021. You had that night before, it's the Big 12 championship tomorrow. And at that point in time, it was Baylor, and Oklahoma State was favored, and Baylor had a backup quarterback playing, and you just thought Mike Gundy is going to find a way to get it done. If you're Texas, the thought is, wow, the first time since 2018 that we're here, and we can go out with the big middle finger to everybody in the Big 12 and say, you know what? All along, despite Oklahoma's success, despite not winning a conference championship for well over a decade, this was Texas League, period. The Longhorn Network, to dominance in auxiliary sports, to the old school Texas football. You can erase the doubt, the hate, and prove that Steve Sarkisian's the right guy as you move into the SEC. And for me, as we break down this entire matchup, I see something that on paper is a blowout for Texas. I see something that we get to the very end of this game. It's 45-17, and you hear the roar of the Longhorn Nation. Being in Arlington this is a rarity for Texas. Playing for a Big 12 championship, being on the cusp of a Big 12 title is a rarity at this point. There are kids in middle school who have not seen this. That's what should happen. But is it what's going to happen? There's the realm in which, picture it. We get down 40 seconds left. Alan Bowman, who had 300 yards against Oklahoma, who helped piece together a beautiful ball game against OU, where the defense for Oklahoma State stepped up and they won that Bedlam game. Picture Alan Bowman, who's thrown for 300 yards. Ollie Gordon, who's run for 150. Ollie's right there behind him as the safe man. Bowman takes a knee, and you hear it. SEC, SEC, SEC. Oklahoma State fans and all other Big 12 fans at home taunting Texas as they play their final game in this conference. Two different realities, and we get one of them tomorrow. In this game, 19th ranked Oklahoma State, 7th ranked Texas, 9-3. A team that lost to South Alabama against a UT squad that only lost to Oklahoma. And I'll make the case that UT with a win should be in the college football playoff, especially if Alabama beats Georgia coming up on Saturday. For Oklahoma State, getting here was funky. They beat BYU last week, and it took, I don't want to say a miracle, but double overtime and an 18-point comeback to get it done to even punch their ticket here. And they hold the best player in the conference, who they really started giving the ball to around week 4. Ollie Gordon, Doak Walker, he is right in the middle of that conversation. 1,600 rushing yards, 20 touchdowns. And Mike Gundy said it. At this point, I would guess their coaches are going to know what we're going to do. I'm going to say that for the most part, they're going to do what they do. We're in game 13. And there aren't a lot of changes that are going to take place after over a 2-day preparation. He is ready. Gundy is ready to run the damn ball with Ollie Gordon. That's what this game is going to be. They have to be able to establish the ground game. And Oklahoma State has the 26th ranked offense in the country. They have a 50th offense on the ground, 40th through the air. Combined 26th, and they're one of the most balanced teams in America. As much as we say this run game is going to be dominant against Texas, it's Ollie Gordon or bust. Alan Bowman's not going to help you out there. And Alan Bowman hasn't been that bad. They're not going to unleash him. This isn't, hey, we need Alan Bowman to throw 20-yard out routes. We need Alan Bowman to throw the ball 35 yards downfield. We need Alan Bowman to throw a bunch of deep bombs. That's not the way it's going to be for Oklahoma State on Saturday. You stick to your guns. You stick the short routes that got Alan Bowman to win against Oklahoma. You stick to giving the ball to Ollie Gordon, and you say, look, let's go out there and let's just play it. Let's just play it. For Texas, The same deal. You don't vary your game just because there are multiple running backs out. CJ Baxter banged up. Jonathan Brooks is done. Jaden Blue is going to have to go out there and be a menace. And you're going to have to rely on an offense that finds a way without a couple of its key running backs to punch it into the red zone. Burr Auburn can't go out and kick 5 field goals again and win the game. I know that was a key to the 57-point competition against Texas Tech last week. In this one, you have to find a way to get it done when you're in Oklahoma State territory. It is the Big 12 championship game. There is not we marched to the 20, the drive stalled out. You're going to have to be able to put up touchdowns if you're Texas. Obviously, last week they were able to put up touchdowns and field goals, but it has to be 6 on Saturday. Quinn Ewers, 2,700 yards, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He has been tactical. He has not had to do too much. Quinn Ewers is in the Heisman conversation if Texas unleashes him. I think that's the case. There have been times this year where Texas has leaned on the ground game because that's what they've needed. They have not asked Quinn Ewers to go out and win them a football game really outside of Alabama. And we already saw what he did in that one. This weekend, I still don't think you ask Quinn Ewers to go win you the football game. You keep it on the ground. You get the ball to a Xavier Worthy, to an A.D. Mitchell. You get those guys out in space. You don't throw it to them deep. You don't have to throw it to them deep. You try to spread the ball out. Sarkisian said one thing with this group that I'm coming to find out is it's kind of business as usual. It's a Big 12 championship week where usually the lights would be too bright for a Texas team who has not been here. Iowa State has been here more recently than Texas, but these guys are prepared. As you walk in, there's something different in the air. The guys are focused and they want to be dialed into the plan, but it's kind of business as usual, Sark says. And Texas is playing for a playoff berth. There is still hope. Problem is, Texas is 85th in the country on third down conversions. That's one of the issues. They can't get the offense. Burt Auburn's had to save them a couple of times because the offense cannot click on third down very well. And while Texas is so good on third down defensively, is so good defensively against the run, penalties. The secondary defense against the passing game has struggled, and here's the way that this game is going to play out tomorrow. Texas is going to jump out. I want us all to prepare ourselves. Texas is going to get a lead in this game. I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as what BYU did to Oklahoma State, but the way that I see this, it'd be lazy to think, it's going to be a back and forth. Oklahoma State's really going to give it to them at the beginning. If you've watched the way these two teams have played, that's not how I see Oklahoma State coming out in this game. They're a team that closes. And Texas is not. While they've been able to win, sure, late, aside from that Oklahoma game where they truly didn't close, this is a Texas squad that is susceptible. They are susceptible to comebacks. They might get out 17-0. They might get out 14-3. Texas might get out 10-0. That's how I see this game going. But as long as Oklahoma State doesn't freak out, and the reason they won't is a guy named Mike Gundy who has been there, who has done that, who has gotten every accolade in the Big 12, aside from Big 12 championship game victory. He is going to have his team prepared, dialed in to come out after the half, facing a 10-point, 20-10 deficit, ready to go. And Oklahoma State brings this game to a climax. There will be a moment late in the game where Oklahoma State, who is trailed by double digits, has pulled it back in, either taken the lead or gotten it done to the point that they are right back within a field goal of Texas. And I think that's where Texas comes alive. I don't think it's a game-winning drive offensively, but instead a game-winning drive defensively, similar to how Oklahoma State lost that game to Baylor in 2021. There was a large deficit to start. Oklahoma State did what they do. They come back in the second half. They make the game close. They certainly cover 14.5 this week, or 15.5, whatever it is. But right there, when it matters the most, I'm going to side with Texas. I think the better team, I'm going to side with Texas. The better team gets it done on defense. Final score, Texas, 34 points. Oklahoma State with a doozy of a second half offensive performance pulls it within 6, 34-28 Texas. Maybe 34-27. Right in that range. Texas by a score. Oklahoma State easily covers 15.5 or whatever it's going to be when the game opens. But the Longhorns get their first Big 12 championship in over 10 years. And hold the eternal scoreboard over the Big 12. Will that punch their ticket to the college football playoff? Let's talk about it. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is where I go to make money. It is my passive income. I go and I say, FanDuel, I'd like to make a parlay. And FanDuel says, yes, what would you like? And I say, give me Dallas Cowboys and Cincinnati Bengals, which is probably not a very good parlay. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Go check out FanDuel.com/lockedon and get that money, that $150 in free play with your $5 moneyline bet at FanDuel. Will the Texas Longhorns play in the college football playoff? They should. If Texas goes out and does the same thing Oregon does this week, wins a conference championship, why does Oregon get the nod? I mean, sure, Bo Nix is good, but is Quinn Ewers not? Has Quinn Ewers not gotten the same amount of national attention at times? Quinn Ewers was the darling coming out of high school, going to Ohio State. Now at Texas, he's had a great season. And while, look, I'm not a Texas homer. I have come on this show for months now and said that I hope Texas loses every game. That doesn't make me petty. Okay, wait a second. Does it make me petty? Yeah, probably. Yeah, sure. I'll give it to you. But they left the conference. I have no allegiance to a team that's leaving the Big 12, right? But in this situation, let's just look at it objectively. As somebody who's not sitting here actively rooting for Texas to go to the college football playoff, let's just look at it in a way that makes sense. Texas has a much better strength of schedule, a top 10 strength of schedule. Oregon's outside the top 50. Texas has beaten 4 ranked teams if they win on Saturday against Oklahoma State, who's in the top 20. For Oregon, sure, they'll hold another win against Washington. But for Texas, they went on the road and beat Alabama. That's a much better win than anything that Oregon has. Their win against Washington would be a neutral site victory. Especially if Alabama beats Georgia on Saturday, then Texas holds the head-to-head win against Bama, and you're going to sit here and tell me that that doesn't matter. If you sit here and tell me every year, year in and year out, strength of schedule, beef up your schedule, get in the college football playoff because you played a hard strength of schedule, and then you go with Oregon over Texas, and then you go with Alabama over Texas, that doesn't make a lot of sense. In a year where the SEC is down, but the Big 12 ended up having enough parity that by the end of the season, teams like Kansas State were good, where teams like Texas Tech got into a bowl, were sneaky, where a team like Oklahoma was still a player toward the end of the year, still won 10 games, and Texas' lone loss is a neutral site loss to OU on a last-second touchdown. And look, I get it. You can make the big case of if you're a Texas fan, you can't complain. Just beat Oklahoma, we're not having this conversation. That's true. Just beat Oklahoma, we're not having this conversation. But that didn't happen. They didn't beat Oklahoma. So now we have to have this conversation, and the conversation should be full stop. Texas has the resume to go to the college football playoff. They beat Alabama on the road. They might as well. What the college football playoff committee is telling me is Texas would have been better off playing Western Carolina. They could have just played Abilene Christian that week, and it would have mattered the exact same of beating Alabama on the road, because we're not talking about the biggest win in the country this season. Texas going on the road to knock off Alabama. It mattered then. It was huge then, but now nobody wants to talk about it. Now, that was back when Deion Sanders was ruling college football. That was so long ago, we don't even need to talk about it. Then why did Texas play the game? Then why do you tell me that strength of schedule matters? Then why would any team schedule any tough game when teams outside the top 50 in strength of schedule are being rewarded, but when Texas, again, a team that I have no allegiance to, is being held out of the college football playoff for what? Winning games? For beating ranked team, for having a good strength of schedule, for going on the road against Alabama and winning? And their one loss coming against 10-win Oklahoma. They didn't lose a sneaky, sleepy game like Ohio State does to Purdue every other year. They didn't lose to Iowa State. They didn't lose to Kansas State. They didn't lose to a team that's outside of the top 25. They lost to Oklahoma, who gets so much respect. Now I get it. I get it. Texas has not re-earned that brand. It's been so long And there's been so much conversation of whether or not Texas is back or not back, and are they really good? Are they fraudulent? Did they just win a Big 12 that was down? I get that being the national rhetoric, but I think it's a lazy national rhetoric. Look at the analytics. Look at a defense that is the best in the country against the ground game. Look at an offense that is so dynamic, they don't have to ask Quinn Ewers to do too much because they can ground it and pound it with any number of running. But it doesn't matter who gets hurt. They're still great on the ground. The receiving core, the receivers outside from A.D. Mitchell to Xavier Worthy, and the list goes on. But you're telling me that, I don't even know we should put Texas in the conversation of going to a college football playoff at this point in the juncture. Why? Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan. I mean, the fact that I saw a promo about Ohio State was a way they can backdoor their way in. What are we talking about? Texas should have as good a shot as anybody. The resume is better than Oregon's. And if Texas has a Power 5 conference championship, then give them a nod. Florida State at 13-0, let them in. Fine. They're undefeated. If Georgia loses to Alabama, let Alabama in, sure. But by God, Texas better be there. They beat Alabama on the road. They beat them in Tuscaloosa. Put Michigan in there, sure. But I don't want to see promos about Ohio State. I know that Texas fans are having to conjure up ways for UT to get in. They have to create these funky, this happens and this happens and this happens, and Texas gets in. You shouldn't have to. The resume is there. What I'm being told right now is that if Texas beats Oklahoma on Saturday, like they should, whether it's by 35, 13, or 3, what that resume says, what the strength of schedule says, what the committee says, that we go by this. We need a strength of schedule. We need to see your conference schedule. We need to be impressed. And now, clock's about to strike midnight, and it's not really about resume. It's more about who we dislike. It's more about who we see and who's the best team. By what? That's that. Texas, welcome to a situation that a lot of Big 12 teams have faced in the past. That is just being pissed off at the college football playoff because it is madness. It's maddening. Texas belongs in the college football playoff. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. Let's play ball this weekend. The last one of this Big 12 era. Oklahoma State and Texas. Let's send out Texas the right way. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.